it sounds simple, but there's depth behind the simplicity, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I say that about dad jokes.
There's depth in the simplicity of the dad joke.
Yeah, there's a great Instagram channel. I don't know what you call it. It's Instagram.
Oh, like a reel?
Yeah. Well, it's not a reel. I mean, it's just a complete like account that's made up for dad jokes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Some are good, some are bad, some are like.
I follow it.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
And middle class fancy.
Yes.
I love middle class fancy.
Yeah, yeah. I think I found it because of you.
Probably.
Yeah.
I talk about it a lot.
Yeah. So every now and then, when I get on Instagram, which is like once a week, I go on there and I look at it and I go like, huh, that's funny. And then I don't remember it. And I don't have Facebook on my phone, so I have no idea what goes on unless I sit at a laptop.
Do you watch the Boston Be a Man account? Did I send you that?
No.
It's just this guy from Boston. Like every day he'll put out like 3 of these, but he'll say something like, if you're at the store and you can't find what you're looking for, leave and never ask for help. Be a man.
Leave and never ask for help.
Yeah. Get drunk at your son's football game and stumble onto the field. Be a man.
Well, there's some suggestions for all of our listeners out there. Welcome to the NerdBrand Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Davis. I'm here with Mitch Gregory and Michaela Meek, and Michaela's the only one that actually like dressed up for this. So
I'm in uniform.
I put on a shirt with buttons.
A big boy shirt.
Yes, I call it. This is me adulting. Underneath is a Marvel T-shirt, so that way I can be like, okay, I want to relax now, and then take off the big boy shirt. And I got my logo shirt underneath, which I need to buy some new ones. So I got a lot of stuff in my personal life I need to do that I don't really need to talk about on this show.
I was gonna say, do we need to talk about it right here, right now?
Yeah. Well, later this week, I got a doctor. You guys might want to, no, it's not going to happen here. John is not with us today, which is why I'm doing voices, because typically I'm afraid if I do them, he's going to throw something at me later. But yeah, he's dealing with a broken air conditioner. So yeah.
Stinks.
Yeah. Well, if he's sweating a lot, dumb.
Hopefully they've stocked up on the old deodorant.
If you're ever meeting with John and the camera's off, just know it's because he's not wearing a shirt and he's sweating. There's some imagery for everybody. About 2 years ago, we did a show. Well, we did a series of shows, and it was about the most valuable brands of 2020. That was our list. We did like one of those little top 5 things, and we had a guest on for every show or episode for each brand we discussed. So this year, I thought, well, we didn't do anything for 2021. I thought we'll look at maybe some of the brands what's changed, if anything. And funny enough, one has, but everything else pretty much stayed the same. So I was like, well, we're not going to do another series because nothing changed but one. Yeah. So, but we're kind of going to talk about top 5 brands that are relevant for 2022 and kind of include in this the top most valuable brands for 2022, and then sort of give a quick example of like the differences. And one that I can point out is one set you buy things from, and the other one, you buy their thing, I guess is the way to say it. So we'll get into this. And I don't want to talk about, or trying not to talk about jargon because it's easy to do. I'd like to avoid it. So I apologize ahead of time for everybody listening that just heard 2 things that are jargony.
You will hear no more.
Yeah. So anyways, the top brand is still Apple as far as value. 355, 0.08, 355 million. So, or something like that. So that's the top one. I don't think anybody here at the table is surprised about that.
Not one bit.
Yeah. Amazon, though, look how close Amazon is to Apple. Just 5 million. Just 350.27. And Apple's 355.08. Just 5. It's like, missed it by that much.
Is this millions or billions?
I think it may be billions. Yeah. It actually may be billion, but which is hard to get my head around these days, you know?
Numbers so big that your brain can't hold them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, I was told a long time ago, like when you think about trillion, there's not been a trillion seconds since Jesus walked the earth or something like that. So it's like trillion is such a huge number. So when you get down to even billion, you're still looking at something that's pretty significant. So
It's a lot.
yeah. Are you surprised at number 3, Mitch?
No. I mean, look, the one thing you can kind of look at all of these brands, and the one thing they have in common, they're pervasive. I mean, you can't walk down the street without tripping over them. I mean, without either seeing marketing from them, hearing them mentioned in conversation, or being in possession of something that has their brand attached to it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Michaela's friend broke a finger on a Google yesterday. And by the way, that is number 3 for audio listeners and video. 263.43 is Google. Number 4 is Microsoft at 184.25. It's really funny how close Amazon and Apple are, but look at how far apart Google and Microsoft are.
Yeah, what's funny to me is there's a real jump, like from Apple to Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, Walmart being 111 billion doesn't seem as small to me as what Microsoft is valued at. I would have thought they would be closer to the top 3 than they are.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Well, the big difference this year that shocked me was, I guess I shouldn't say it shocked me because honestly, e-commerce and the explosion of that since the pandemic. When we did the last list, only one retailer was on here. Now there's 2. It was all technology companies when we first did this. And now Walmart has appeared as number 5 and has knocked off Samsung. So,
which is interesting, and I should know this, and I probably did at some point and have forgotten. But you talk about things like market penetration.
Mm-hmm.
How many people own Android phones versus own Apple phones? Don't more people own Android than Apple than iPhones? Or am I making that up?
You know, that'd be a good one for everybody out there. If you go to our YouTube channel, check us out there, leave a comment, and let us know. I don't know, because we know that courtesy of Mr. Jason Bernard coming on the show and talking about Google business profile pages, that time of day is actually calculated by the amount of Android phones across the threshold of a business, not, when it's busy.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But that metric is not in control of the owner of the business page. It's them tracking phones going.
But it's
across.
Android phones.
But it's Android phones because Google.
Right.
He wasn't sure how many of those were actually iOS devices because of the privacy of iOS, and of course, Google and iOS don't like. Meh, stay on your side.
Right. Stay in your lane.
Either of you Walmart shoppers?
I mean,
not really. It kind of overwhelms me a little bit. I like to go to Trader Joe's when I do my grocery shopping.
Oh, okay. Let's put the pinky in the air for I go to Trader Joe's.
It's just there's too many options and I get overwhelmed. I end up spending more money if I go to like Kroger or Walmart because I just go aisle hopping, as I call it. So that's why I go to TJ's.
Yeah, it's because people that go to Trader Joe's may own an island.
I wish.
I'm a Kroger guy. We talked about that on the last episode because we were talking about Kroger's logo. That's why. Where you go? Are you a Target or what?
No, grocery-wise, we go to Meijer.
Meijer?
Ooh,
Because
Meijer.
they have pretty much a similar selection to Kroger, but I found their prices tend to be in the neighborhood of 6 to 10 cents cheaper on most things.
Mm-hmm.
Similar selection of similar variety of brands. But yeah, so the differentiator there for us has been price. There are a couple of issues, not to get into the minutia, but there's some, like for example, pork chops. This is going to sound strange, but the quality of pork chops is better to us as a family than what we had been getting at Kroger. Something changed. I don't know where Kroger gets their pork now, but there's a texture issue. I don't know, that sounds weird, but there's a texture issue when you cook it that is different, and Meijer still has to me a better quality cut of meat in that regard. So yeah, for groceries we're a Meijer family. I go to Walmart for certain things generally. Mm-hmm. Motor oil, because I change my own motor oil in my cars. They tend to be a few cents cheaper than an auto parts place or other comparable stores. things like that.
Yeah, I get my oil from Walmart. That's about it now. This podcast brought to you by
The oil company.
So,
Or
yeah.
I need something quick and I know where it is, I'll run to Walmart quickly because it's close to my house.
Yeah.
But if I know what I need and I know where to go to get it, if I need a new mouse, my mouse dies. I'll run to Walmart real quick.
Huh.
If I need like a new cord for the television, I'll go to Walmart and get it because it'll be cheap. I know where they are. I can get in and I can get out.
Yeah. So you're saying that you basically shop like a man.
Sort of.
Okay. To kind of bounce back to what Robert said earlier.
I tend to know where things are. I generally don't need to say, "Hey, I'm lost." I can work my way around most
Yeah.
stores.
I kind of do that too. I have to admit, I don't ask for directions and I don't ask for help at the store because I'm like, well, there's only so many aisles. I'll eventually find it. And if I don't, I'm like, well, I guess they didn't have it. I know that's not right. Anyway, so the new kid on there is Amazon. And, John was going to be here, but because I know he could probably enlighten us into some of the aspects of why. But, he's got to fix an AC. That's kind of important. So, but relevance and comparing this list of brands that are valuable. Brand value is not, I want to make sure we understand, it's not brand equity.
Define that for us in the audience.
Yeah. Well, I didn't really write the definition down, but I will tell you what
Make it up.
Yeah. I'll tell you what it isn't. It isn't brand equity because a lot of folks get them confused because value and equity kind of seem, because you think about your house and equity, home equity,
Well,
like,
it's-
the value of my home, right?
But it's very similar. It's what you've put into it and how much what you've put into it and its value have elevated over time.
Yeah.
That's equity.
Yeah. So,
Brand value means if you were to, how much space does it occupy in the mind and pocketbook of the general public is, I think, kind of a
it's tied directly to like money
right
amounts, what's in the bank,
right.
how much is in your bank account with it. That's it's directly tied to that.
Right.
Brand equity, you've described perfectly. It's you have to build that up. You do that through awareness, good product, good reviews, blah blah blah. It does lead to value though.
It's a lot of perception. It's based a lot on equity has a perception aspect to it, I guess.
Yeah.
Whereas brand value is less about perception, more about balance sheets, dollars and cents.
Yeah, because we know brands. If I say a brand name, you'll probably go, I don't have any off the top of my head I can think of. Maybe you all do, but they're not in business anymore. And you'll go like, oh.
Kmart.
There you go.
Yep.
See?
Yep.
That's an example right there of equity. But what's the value?
Yeah, if you'd asked like a year after they'd fallen off the market, then Sears is another one.
Yeah.
That's another one. Who owned Kmart, ended up owning Kmart.
Yeah. Well, remember H.H. Gregg?
H.H. Gregg.
Yeah.
I actually don't remember HH.
You don't? Yeah. Well, I guess of the demographic, maybe you wouldn't. Michaela's the young one.
Electronics stores, places where you would go, kind of like what Best Buy is one of the last.
But they always sell
examples.
dishwashers and dish.
Right. Anything that
Here's appliances.
Right.
Like, really?
It went from electronics to anything you plug in.
Yeah.
Which covers a lot more ground.
Yeah.
Is Radio Shack? I know this sounds like a dumb question, but is Radio Shack still in business?
On a much smaller scale, yes, they are still around.
Oh, are they?
I was a fan. I loved Radio Shack because if you were, if you've got a lot of electronic equipment at home, you've got to, even now, even though they've whittled them down, the different numbers and styles of connectors, there's not as many as there used to be. But still, if you needed some kind of plug adapter, some obscure plug adapter for something you wanted to hook up to something, you could go to Radio Shack and you could find, no matter how obscure it was, you could find it.
All I know is every time at the mall, if I walked by one, all I would see is the giant RC cars in the front, and I would just want one.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Then, I'm not that kind of person. I'm just be outside playing with the RC car, and then it would just sit still for like years.
Well, the other thing is, it used to be back in the day, back when personal computers were becoming a thing. They were one of the top outlets. The Tandy computers were very popular.
You're like a history Wikipedia at the moment. I'm just gonna say that.
Comes from being on the planet a long time.
What made you think of Radio Shack?
I just was dabbling with thoughts in my head, and I was like, oh, I haven't seen a store like that in forever. I remember seeing one in the strip mall, ironically enough, attached to a Walmart, and it got replaced with like a Maurice's, and then turned into a Feeder Supply, and it's been evolving to other shops ever since they nixed it.
They always that's something you always would see. As a Radio Shack is attached to a Walmart, and then like a full building next to it would be a Lowe's, because at one time they had some sort of agreement when they would build a super center that you'd build a Lowe's next door or something. It was very strange. And then I think Home Depot did that with Target to kind of fight back and be like, fine, Walmart get in bed with them, we're going to get in bed with Target. It's just like this weird thing in our economy at the time when they were building those big brand stores.
Here's a brand that went away, and it's another kind of a mall-oriented brand. Yeah. Suncoast. Remember Suncoast Video?
No, you've definitely passed me there on that one.
And see, it hasn't been that long. It's been maybe 15 years.
Yeah. Maybe
15 years since they started disappearing from malls. But it's a place you went. I mean, they were kind of in that same family as like record stores that evolved into record and CD stores, which evolved into record, CDs, and video stores. But those have all started disappearing. There were tons of those that are now gone.
Isn't FYE still over at St. Matthews?
I think so, yeah. And that's what I was saying. Like, kind of vinyls are kind of coming back because they're bringing them back into the store. So
I really don't know why.
They're coming back from the dead.
Yeah. I mean, I'd still own plenty of vinyl. Trust me.
I think it's the sound. It's not.
That's what they say. Yeah. I even know a sound engineer personally who swears. He still swears by vinyl and analog recording because he says you get a better sound reproduction because of the shape of the waveform.
Well, we kind of have one of those sitting in. We have one of those sitting in the
sitting
booth.
right there.
And Robert, do you have an opinion about vinyl versus digital? Put him on the spot.
I mean, maybe back in the day before lossless audio was, really a digital format of sorts, like what you can listen to on Apple, for example, now, where you're, basically losing zero data from the recording. But as far as like the quality between a record and even MP3, I've always personally thought that MP3 was better quality. I mean, there's that nice scratchiness, I guess,
that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
It's nostalgic to listen to a record. Like, you're listening to a record, but I wouldn't say the quality's better.
Yeah. An old friend of mine, and we worked together for years. He's a copywriter, audio producer, voice talent named Joe Brown. He lives over in Indiana. He said it was because of the waveform. Because on a digital waveform, your peaks aren't smooth or don't come to a sharp top. They flatten at the top. The waveform flattens at the top. So you don't get as smooth, I guess, a transition in the waveform, which has something to do with the quality of sound reproduction. Now, like you said, it's come a long way since people started, first started buying songs off iTunes and downloading them from services.
You have to have the hearing of Superman, though, to hear that, though. That's because, as you get older, there's just certain decibels that you just don't hear anymore.
Well, and there's a compression depending on the file type. If the more compression is, you do lose certain amounts of.
Yeah.
That's the main thing is the compression of a digital track. Like uncompressed digital tracks, where everything's recording independently. I mean, I can see how an analog, a record would sound better than that.
Yeah. Well, and I can see why, and we've gone into a real tangent here, but I can see why they go back and completely remaster old albums for digital reproduction, because in the early days of CDs, they would just take those same recordings and just transfer them digitally and reproduce them on CD, and it wasn't the same. You lost something.
Yeah,
because it was mixed for a different purpose when it was mixed for an analog reproduction versus mixed for digital. Anyway, talking about brands that have lost value. I mean,
yeah. Well, and we're talking about like brands that you buy stuff from. So getting into brands that are relevant. Apple's at the top of not just value but of relevance.
Like I said, it's so funny because they don't own the majority of the PC market. I don't think, but I could be wrong, they don't own most of the phone market. but their brand is so much more widely recognized.
Yeah, but all the time we spent talking about music and audio, what did they just get rid of recently at Apple?
They're phasing out the iPod
Exactly. It's gone.
because this is your iPod now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember my first one when I bought my first one. And then in 2000, I want to say 6, the iPod Touch came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I still remember when I was working in an engineering office, all of us gathered around this one guy that had one. And we were all like, that's going to be a phone. And it was like a year later.
Well, yeah, because in the evolution of the iPod, they started looking like an iPhone.
Yeah. We ended up seeing iPod, the pods. They would end up having capability of video. There was a guy that worked also in the office that he had one of the fancier ones that did video. So he would just have kind of it sitting in a cradle as he's working, watching a movie, which made everybody angry. But his work output still was there. He just got mad because he had something to pass the time because the work was boring. But it was one of those like muscle memory type deals. So it's like, I never personally cared, but everybody else did. And I think they were just jealous that he had that device to keep him company.
Yeah, I remember remember when the first iPods came out, and they were small. I mean, they were, they were comparable to the size. I have an old iPhone. It's a 6S. There was something not dissimilar in size. The dimensions were real different. But I remember picking one up and thought it was heavy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's basically like holding a small hard drive. Is
Yeah.
what it was.
Yeah.
But it was just amazing. It's like, how many songs can you put on that? 300? That's incredible. And now, you can hold like thousands. But it was incredible. It was interesting. I got my first iPod. I actually got for free because it was a premium given to me by a stock photo company because I'd made for the company. I had made so many purchases of stock photos. They gave me a free iPod Shuffle. It was the stick.
Oh, man.
The white stick.
I remember those. Yeah.
That was the first one I had. Then I got one of those little square metal shuffle when the shuffle went to like that little square thing.
Oh,
with
the
like,
minis?
yeah, that you kind of pin it
Mhm.
on you.
Yeah.
That was the second iPod I got, and that's the only 2 iPods I've had. Then I got an iPhone.
I forgot all about those.
Yeah,
Minis, yeah.
They've been through several. It's interesting. You look at the evolution of the iPod and the different shapes and dimensions. I still have the shuffle. I still have the stick and I have the mini. Still have both.
I
I don't use them.
I prefer that era of Apple as far as product design
Oh yeah.
than I do today. I just do. I think that's why I have, Robert gave me crap for it, but I've got an iPhone 12, but it's a mini. It's not and he was like, it's tiny. Yeah, it's tiny because you know what? It doesn't take up all of my pocket.
I don't want to carry a dinner plate around to talk to people on.
Yeah.
It makes you look bigger.
Yeah, it makes me look bigger. Yeah. Everything's bigger if you have an iPhone 12.
I'm a giant.
Number 2 on the list of relevant brands. Yeah, we're still counting down for those that are like, what?
Stick with us. Stick with us.
Peloton. So we've gone from music entertainment to,
Personal fitness.
which this is where we can go into a tangent, talk about some ads that Mitch has been getting served and been like, what?
Yeah, but that's a different brand.
You don't have to mention the brand.
Yeah, it's just interesting. There's a fitness brand that I've noticed particularly on Twitter. I've been getting served a lot of ads. I don't know why me in particular because I don't do a lot.
Yeah, because you're fat. You're so fat.
I am out of shape.
Jeez.
But at any rate, I've been getting a lot of ads from these companies, and in the videos and images, they are all, and this is not to offend anyone, just an observation, they're all overweight.
Uh-huh.
And whether it's apparel, shoes, equipment,
Mm-hmm.
everybody featured in these ads is overweight. And it was brought up in a conversation. It's like, have I been doing searches about losing weight or getting fit? And I really haven't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so I'm just, if there's just a...
Now, are you seeing these ads like banner display ads, or are you seeing them as well in video, like OTT?
It's mostly on Twitter.
Okay. Some
are video and some are static.
Okay.
But to a one, it's all overweight individuals. I mean, there'll be different degrees,
Have you?
But they are pretty obviously people that are not what most would consider fit.
Oh, here's
You know what I mean?
here's a couple other questions. One, are you seeing these ads when you leave your home? And two, are there people in your family that buy that brand a lot?
I don't think so. I mean, like it's mainly on Twitter and
It's like a figuring out a murder. It's like
Right, I understand.
the
I see what
butler. The butler did it with a
I see where you're getting to. I mean,
biscuit. I don't.
when it comes to retargeting and all of that, but it's my personal Twitter account. I just thought it was interesting, and because there's a part of my brain, because of the way I've come up in advertising, is you want to appeal to the aspirational desires of people, not necessarily how they see themselves, not necessarily how they see themselves in reality, but how they aspire to see themselves. The end result. You're selling, in most brands, you're selling the end result of what that brand will provide you.
Yeah.
Or how it will make you feel.
Well, most people, when they interact with even agencies like ours, they're thinking of the end result, which is why we constantly walk people back to branding away from other end services. We're not competing with marketing agencies. We're not competing with those that do marketing. It just comes after the message is developed, after the visuals are determined and standardized, not before. And when you put one thing in front of the other or before the other, cart before the horse, as they say, you may have some minor results, but not as many as you would have if you had started correctly. And so I think that's just the way human nature is. It's like talking about, you were talking, I'm going to dovetail back to this, and I don't know why, but this is how my brain works. It's like you talking about pork chops, and, nobody really thinks, where that came from and the quality of it versus the pork chops you would buy at Kroger, which now today, now I want pork chops. But, yeah, so it's something that, and I'm going to go to Meijer to get them because I want to know, what do you mean by texture?
I could describe it if you want, but I don't think anybody wants to hear that.
No, that's okay. We can. We'll. One of these days when Robert and the guys here are like, "Yeah, we got about an hour and a week to fill up for a podcast. You want to come over?"
Okay, I'll sum it up in one word: rubbery.
Okay, well there you go.
Okay? Rubbery. There we go.
He sure it doesn't say
for display only. Oh wait, I've been eating props this whole time.
There was a picture of what's that? IKEA.
Yeah.
Display apples, and somebody took a photo of them, and it had teeth marks all in them. People were just. Anyways, the things I see on Reddit. The number 3 on the list is Spotify.
Interesting.
And followed by that is Bose. So these are two things that are audio.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but a lot of people don't. It's funny. Bose is one of those brands where if you go, I remember when I had a 96 Vet and it had a Bose system in it. That was like a premium feature.
Premium audio.
Yeah. At that time, it was like, what was it? AC Delco was the default. Like if you bought a Corvette even, that was the thing. So you had to ask for the Bose system.
Right.
And I loved going to a drive-in in that thing and sitting in that car because, man, was that a good sound system then. And still is. But it's interesting to see, you can see Apple, which we interact with communications, Peloton, fitness. Spotify is now, it's what everybody streams their music on and podcasts. So that's not really too surprising. It's number 3.
No, not in this day and age.
And then, but Bose number 4, that surprised me. I wasn't expecting Bose. I was sort of thinking I would see something else.
Yeah, because I don't see I'm not looking for it, but I don't seem like I see nearly as much marketing from them.
Yeah. You were going to say something, Kayla?
Yeah, like you said, I don't see much advertising on their end, but they do have, other than speakers, they have headphones.
Right.
I think they have equivalent to AirPods now. I have Bose in my car. I want to ditch the whole car, but just take the speakers out of it because everything else is not functional.
Scrap the car, but save the stereo.
But that is a mystery, though. Why is that on?
Yeah, I mean, they used to be there for a period of time. I think late 90s, early 2000s, they were much more visible.
Yeah.
Marketing-wise. But you do see a lot of people walking around with Bose headphones.
Yeah, and I think that's probably why it made the list to be relevant is in 2022. With the explosion of audio, people really do want to hear things in a crisper way or a better way. So yeah.
Well, the other thing about this way, the last 2 years, everybody's been cloistered in their homes, working from home, doing everything at home. So the value of having good audio things like good headphones, Spotify, for example, podcasting, Apple and Amazon, all brands that relate a great deal to home-related products for people that now spend a lot more time in that space. So I wonder if that has a lot to do with why right now, at this snapshot in time, these brands have the value they have.
Well, I also think it has a lot to do with business owners that want to get into it, and you have to. For those listening, we get asked a lot, like, we don't produce like the podcast here. Yeah, we named it, we picked the theme out, we tried it, we produced the scripts, but honestly, we work with the Speakeasy podcast network here, and they give we pay them for the studio space and everything else. We really rely on them because the equipment is expensive, and I can see Robert craning up.
But you want the good stuff.
He looked like you're about to pontificate, Robert. Like, yeah.
I just appreciate the kind words.
It's not gone unnoticed. Trust me.
No.
The investment for that in a good microphone, headphones, wires, even. Mitch and I are guitar players. There's a difference between a Marshall amp and I won't say any other brand because I don't want to disparage, but
an Asian brand you might pick up for like $20 on Amazon. Yeah.
Oh my.
A speaker wired up with a radio wire and a potato.
Although I will tell you, but I mean, because of for years, for guitar aficionados, especially when it comes to rock guitarists, I mean, the value of a good, strong tube-based amplifier like a Marshall, or name any other number.
EVH is a good one.
Yeah, right. But the digital age and the age of solid state and what they are able to reproduce now, going back to kind of the Amazon things, there are these mini amps you can buy on Amazon that do amp modeling. That basically you can select what style. They won't mention the brand name, but they'll mention a style that relates to that brand.
Really?
And you can get a sound that is pretty doggone close to that original brand for a fraction. I'm not advocating it.
No, you don't sound like you're doing that at all.
But if you're a hobbyist and you're at home and you don't have huge amounts of money to spend, you don't tour.
Yeah.
You don't play professionally.
Right.
But you want to kind of get that sound and get a taste of it. It's amazing what you have access to now via things like Amazon. Because which is part of why I think their brand has the value it has now. You can find virtually anything you want and have it delivered within a couple of days. Everything from an amp, a modeling amp, a bargain modeling amp, to high-end stuff.
Wow.
Another good high-end tube amp, by the way, that I heartily recommend in order of Blackstar amplification out of England. They were started by a bunch of engineers that came over from Marshall. Really nice stuff.
Wow. Well, there you go.
I own one.
No, couldn't tell. Well, the last brand that's relevant on the list is Android. Thoughts on this one? Because I'm an iOS guy.
I'm an iOS guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I have friends who have Android devices, and they love the open source nature of it. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I used to have a Samsung, but I think it's just the fact that it's a little bit more diverse. Like, you have Google, you have Samsung, you have all the different brands that are attached to that. I think that's what makes
LG?
it more, makes it more diverse. And, well, obviously it's a competitor with Apple, but I feel like for some reason Apple is at the top of the list.
People who have Android phones are the same people who are like, yeah, I read the book. I didn't need to watch the movie. And it's same sort of attitude. The pretentiousness to them.
The views expressed on this podcast aren't necessarily the views.
But they could be.
They could be. Oh, I'll leave it with this. What brands are relevant to you? And you can use the list if you need to.
I just threw out one, Blackstar.
Yeah.
Which, I don't play nearly as much as I used to, but I stumbled on them. I found them interesting. I heard one of their amps, and I thought, and then there was an artist that I liked that started using their amp, which had a lot to do with why I thought, well, maybe I'll see if I can find a used one,
Mhm.
and it sold me. And it was a combination of things. It was the fact that I started seeing their name become more visible in those circles,
Mhm.
and then you started seeing endorsements from artists that I respect. So those two things kind of came together and thought, yes, I want to try that.
Mm.
So that's one.
Michaela?
One I said earlier is Trader Joe's. Put myself back on that bandwagon, but I love the options that they have. They're mostly organic. They're healthy for you compared to other things I've consumed in the past. Like, don't get me wrong, I like to enjoy a Whopper from Burger King every now and then.
Yeah,
but,
you go.
But I just love, I don't know, it tastes good and it's organic. It's good for you.
Yeah.
Healthful foods.
Yeah. Well, by the way, speaking of Whopper, the Chick King is good. You should check it out.
Is it?
Yeah, it's actually a pretty good sandwich.
See, I that was my first job when I was in high school. And it was amazing working there. The different concoctions you could create for yourself. I mean, if Burger King is smart, if they want a really good test kitchen, ask their employees how they make the stuff they eat on their lunch break.
It's true.
Just pull up to the drive-thru. What do you recommend?
Yeah. Well, one of the things I want
Can I talk to the chef?
I actually want to do like a show in the future, and it is planned. I do have it planned, but it costs money because I want to go to get all the chicken sandwiches from all the places in the area, and then we try them out, and then give our opinion about them.
Well, I mean, push comes to shove.
But I don't want to like reveal like who the chicken sandwich is. I want to do one of those blind things with us to see if we can figure it out, because branding is also something, as you brought up before, you can smell and taste.
Mm-hmm. It's part of what makes any good brand distinct.
Yeah.
They've been doing that with TikTok. They're different drinks. They have like a cardboard thing in front of it, and they'll have Dr. Pepper, Diet Coke, Coke Zero, Coca-Cola, Yoo-Hoo for some reason, which is
it's not a soft drink.
Yeah, very different taste. So I don't understand why that one's thrown in the mix.
Yeah, it's not even chocolate milk. I tried it once and I was like, what?
I love Yoo-Hoo.
Oh,
I'm not
I
a fan.
couldn't.
It tastes like chocolate milk. It tastes like very kind of lighter chocolate milk.
Okay.
I like a thick chocolate.
It is. It's milk product based. It's made with whey, which is good for you actually.
Wow.
I mean, if you work out, anybody who exercises a lot, whey protein is a very good accessible protein for people who supplement.
Yeah, I guess a relevant brand for me is I'm probably gonna have to lean into things like YouTube or Apple, because entertainment is kind of what I do.
Oh yeah.
You know, what I mean, that's just I have a Netflix account, but I just canceled Disney Plus, so I wasn't really a fan of what was coming out of there. I was just like,
we have it, but it's only because my daughter pays for it.
Yeah. So, anyways, well, if you have a relevant brand, and you're like, hey, you guys didn't talk about this one, let us know. You can go to our YouTube channel, search NerdBrand Podcast on YouTube, or just search NerdBrand Podcast on the search engine. You'll find us. You can find us as far as the agency side of things for the branding agency at NerdBrand Agency across the interwebs. And then be sure, if you go to YouTube, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment for any kind of
questions.
Yeah, questions or show topics.
Things you want to hear us talk about that maybe you haven't.
Yeah. Or maybe why does Michaela dress nicer than you all? It's not wrong. So anyways, we want to thank you for listening to this episode. Remember, keep your nerd brand strong.